Ever felt that deep satisfaction of building something with your own hands? There's nothing quite like it, especially when it's both stunning and practical. Today we're tackling the challenge of a cramped entryway by crafting a sleek, custom walnut table. Expect plenty of sawdust, a few oops moments, and one seriously beautiful piece to elevate your space. Let's get to it. Alright, we have this pile of beautiful lumber here, and the first thing we need to do is we need to break it down. So we're going to start measuring and make sure that we have equal amounts of measurements on either side so that we can go ahead and cut straight. We're kicking things off with the track saw, my go-to for those initial crisp cuts. I want to know, am I the only one that turns off their music when using power tools to maintain focus? Let me know in the comments if you do. And here we're using this pull saw so that we can cut the last little bit since we couldn't get with the track saw. Let's move over to the table saw to dial in our dimensions. I've been at this woodworking game for about 5 years now, and seriously, the progress you make with these tools is insane. I used to be intimidated and scared of my table saw, but now, well, I'm still intimidated by it, but I am a little less scared. It's always going to be a tool that I respect and will definitely not take for granted. Now let's enjoy this montage. The real challenge here is managing all these different pieces, especially when you need identical parts. If you don't have one of these crosscut sleds, seriously invest in one. It's a game changer for repeatable, accurate cuts, letting you set a stop and just fly through the material. And when it comes to matching pieces, like these legs, there's only one thing to do. Make sure that you mark them so that you don't lose track of them at all. That's my secret tip. There's something incredibly satisfying about watching those blades slice through wood, knowing you'll get matching pieces. Speaking of tools, the track saw is a constant MVP in my shop. I first got this 3 years ago, and since then, it's been one of the most used tools in my shop. If you don't have one, or if you haven't tried one, I highly recommend it. For a DIY woodworker like me, who's not running a production shop, it's budget friendly and super versatile. You can see on the first cut, I'll rate it about, a 7 out of 10 here, which is pretty solid. But watch this next one. Even through this 1-inch walnut, it kind of just glides. There's a little burning, yes. It's probably me just moving the track saw a little bit slow, but check it out. It's perfectly matched widths, and that's about an 8 out of 10 in my book. With these first cuts out the way, we can tidy up the workspace and jump to the tabletop. Funny story about this piece. It was supposed to be the bottom, but I had a total brain fart moment. I finished cutting the bottom pieces, looked around, and this was the only one left. So top it is. It's official. This table is starting life upside down, just like my coffee order this morning. Now we've got a small void here that needs some love. What we want to do first is we want to remove all this rot. And then once we do that, we want to go ahead and grab the vacuum and clean it out. Then we're on to the next step, JB Weld. Now, I've used this on projects before, but never for a void like this. Luckily, there's just enough in this syringe to get the job done. And don't worry at all if this is giving you a little bit of hesitation, because this is on the underside of the table, so no one will ever see it. We're adding some black CA glue as well to fill in any tiny imperfections. Once you sand it down, it looks like a natural part of the wood grain, and it takes stain beautifully, almost like magic. If you haven't used this before, I definitely recommend this stuff. After letting that dry for a couple hours, it's time for my favorite part, sanding. No, really. This is one of my first few projects with this sander, and let me tell you, it's a dream. If you're going to upgrade any tool, I always recommend starting with your sander. And the reason why is because you're guaranteed to sand on every single project. A good sander turns a tedious chore into something almost zen, and it's a total game changer. Now we're going to sand to 80 grit, 120 grit, and 150 grit twice. Before that final 150 grit, I always water pop the wood. This raises the grain, ensuring a super smooth finish later on. don't skip this step. Water pop both sides of each piece, top and bottom, and you'll set yourself up for a flawless finish, and then go ahead and sand it down. Now for some joinery. We're setting up a fence here to make sure our pieces join perfectly. I don't have a domino or a biscuit joiner, so we're going old school with dowel pins and a jig. It's all about accuracy, and you'll see in a second why. We're basically checking for square, then we'll line up the two pieces, one on each side, and use those dowel pins to press them together. Our goal is to have 0 visible screws showing in this entire table. We want clean lines all the way. And here's an example of exactly what we want to do with this joinery. As you can see, there's no dowel showing. These dowel pin locators are genius for pinpointing your drill locations. You'll just press them into one piece, then use that mark for the corresponding hole on the other side. For drilling those holes, we picked up a jig at Rockler for about $60 and it works like a charm. And yes, I had to use the bottom of the table for support. Desperate times, right? We'll be drilling 3 holes for about 7 pieces, so precision is key. And quick tip, if these dowel pin locators get stuck, don't try my method like this of pulling it out with dental floss. It will just break the floss. What you want to do is you want to grab a screwdriver and just pry it out. Trust me, it's going to work a lot better. Using our fence as a guide, we're marking the top, middle, and bottom hole with these dowel pin indicators. Then it's time to clamp everything down and drill these bad boys. Again, I know that there are other ways to do this, but this dowel jig is what I've got and it gets the job done. Oh, and if you accidentally drill a hole in the wrong spot, ask me how I know. Woodworkers have a secret weapon, a flush trim saw and a wood plug. Poof, mistake gone. Now you can't even see that it was there. I'm still getting used to using these types of inserts in walnut and it went surprisingly well. No cracking unlike last time. And now we can put on the feet and then this allows us to adjust it in case the floor isn't level. Now that all our dowels are drilled and every hole is filled with glue, it's assembly time. If you're enjoying what you're seeing so far and you mess with a channel like that, please consider hitting that subscribe button. It helps out big time. Time to start connecting these pieces, and as you can see, I try my best to label everything with tape. That's my secret weapon for minimizing mistakes. Then we're using these little frame clamps from the hardware store, and they're perfect for this. If you want to grab any of the tools I'm using, check out the Amazon affiliate storefront link in the video description. It supports the channel and it lets me keep making cool stuff like this for you guys. We use 4 clamps on the top and bottom of the frame plus regular clamps to ensure a tight bond. I prefer to wipe down my glue with a rag rather than waiting for it to sit and dry and go with a chisel, but that's just my preference. This section here on the left could easily be a small bookshelf or storage for games, whatever your heart desires. We'll let it dry overnight, then come back to see how strong it is. And the fact that this is level and not rocking lets me know that we did a great job cutting with the track saw and the table saw. Grabbing the left leg, I noticed a slight issue. The dowels weren't going to be deep enough because I didn't drill the holes deep enough. I didn't want to risk re-drilling and making the holes bigger, so I grabbed this handy dowel trimming jig I built in a previous video. It's perfect for precisely trimming these dowels down to size. I'll go ahead and link it so that you can watch it after this. With the dowels trimmed, we drop them in with some glue. This method is super strong. I probably could have gotten away with 2 dowels per side, but I wanted the extra security. And then I messed up. I completely spaced and thought I could just flip this over, but when this happens, don't panic at all. You usually have a 4 to 5 minute window with this glue, so just go ahead and keep working, reattach the leg, realign, and clamp it back. And here it is all clamped up for the outer frame, left leg, top, and right leg. Now we'll just let this dry and go ahead and enjoy the montage so that you can take a break from hearing me talk. Very nice. So I feel like we have to talk about this. And yes, you read that right. It's definitely been 6 months since I was last in the garage, and here's the reason why. Shortly after I filmed that last clip, I got engaged to the most incredible woman ever, and spending time with her took priority. Woodworking moved to the back burner. The garage wasn't calling my name, but it's been 6 months, and we need to finish this before the big day. Life's fragile, and you want to go ahead and keep moving forward. This piece of walnut plywood is for the middle shelf, and it's from Home Depot. Why? Because we need to move quickly. Time is of the essence. And my table saw was out of commission, so I needed an alternative. But before it goes in, we need to create a rabbet on the back side of our table for the panel. My router bit wasn't deep enough, so since this project was over budget, I couldn't afford to go out and get a new rabbet bit. And as you could see here, this is where we are and this is where we need to be. So this only means one thing, chiseling. And I am terrible with a chisel. I was really hoping this would go well, and surprisingly, it did. No cracking, and I was able to go all the way around without any issues. Now our back panel will sit perfectly flush, slightly below the surface, which is exactly what we want. Who knew I had a secret talent for delicate demolition? Time to decide on the back panel, horizontal or vertical. I thought vertical looked better, even though you won't really see it, but it's the little things that count. We're cutting that for the back side of the table, because this ensures that nothing falls behind it, since this table won't be flush against the wall. And through some editing magic, it looks like our back panel drops perfectly on there, but this was really like the third or fourth cut that I did, and since it fits now, we can go ahead and move back to our shelf. Same cutting method here. I like to sneak up on my cuts for accuracy to make sure that I don't undercut it and then have a problem where now we have to use more materials. So I always do a bunch of cuts. And then the secret weapon for plywood edges, edge banding. If you haven't used this, you're missing out. It's so easy. Just iron it on, and the heat from the iron activates the glue, and then use a roller to ensure a good bond. For trimming the excess, you can use either a utility knife, which is a bit slower, or the specialized cutter. I prefer the specialized cutter because it trims both sides at once and gives you a cleaner finish. Then just trim the ends and you're done. And with these ends, I like to use a scrap piece of plywood so that I don't mess up the table. See the difference? Raw edge to perfectly finished. And then we're going to go ahead and iron on the other side and do the same thing, get rid of the excess. Pro tip, always put the label back in the bag so you know what species of edge banding you have. Trust me, you'll accumulate a lot of different kinds of edge banding and you'll be thankful that you did this. Now that that shelf is done, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next thing. Now, to get an adjustable middle shelf, we're going to be using a Craig shelf jig. These jigs are awesome, and again, it's something I highly recommend. These spacers are great for getting the perfect consistent height on both sides. I use them for every single cabinet build. Take your time marking and you'll nail it every time. These are my new favorite dowel pins because they're double-sided. When I discovered these, I was so happy. One side is 1/4 inch and the other side is 5mm. And then they come with these little caps for each size. You just pop on the one you want for the drill bit that you're using. For us, we're going to be using 5mm. Moment of truth, will our shelf fit? Yes, it's a little snug, I'm not going to lie, but I'm not worried because we're going to be sanding down the inside of the cabinet one more time, plus the shelf itself. And once we do that, we should have a little bit more clearance. Let's put on the back panel, and there it is. Everything fits. Shelf and back panel, check. Now to add some character to this table with some roundovers. For the top, we're going with the 3/8 inch roundover, which is going to be big enough to be noticeable, but not so big that it risks exposing the dowel pins. We're also going to be using this on the smaller portion as well. Here's what it looks like before we do any profiling, and here's what it looks like when we use that 3/8 roundover. On the bottom, we're going to use a shallower 1/16 roundover for a nice crisp edge. That way it looks clean and we don't have to worry about hitting the inserts. Okay, when I originally designed this table, I thought that the left leg would be able to sit by itself, but after testing it, it looked to be a little unstable, so we need to add some stability to that left leg. So we're going to go ahead and cut this back piece using our Ryobi circular saw. It took about 4 cuts to get this perfectly snug, but we got it right. And then now what we're going to do is we're going to drill our holes for our dowels, and we have another issue. I thought one 5/16 inch dowel would be enough, but it still allowed the piece to rotate even with 2 dowels in there, one on either side. That's definitely a rookie mistake. So what I ended up doing is I ended up drilling 2 smaller holes on either side of the middle one. And what this does is this helps prevent the rotation because now we have 4 small dowels instead of 2 big ones. Using our piece, we mark the other side with the dowel pin locators. This time I'm not relying on my hands to press it together. I'm just not strong enough for that. So I'm going to go ahead and use this clamp, but the indents came out perfectly. Now we know exactly where to drill our holes, so we can go ahead and do that using our jig, and then we can go ahead and test fit with all 4 dowels. And it fits perfect. Now all we have to do is hammer in our dowels, glue them in, and then clamp them overnight. Now that we've taken that out, we can go ahead and check it, and it's a solid connection. And then we can go ahead and flip the table over. And for the back panel, all we have to do is just glue. We don't need any nails because the glue is plenty strong. But all we need to do is make sure that this panel stays flat and stays put. So we're going to be adding some serious weight. We're going to add a track saw, we're going to add paint, a cinder block, and maybe even a fire extinguisher. I know it's not their intended uses, but hey, it works. And once we let that dry for about 6 hours or so, we're going to turn it over and check, and it looks great. Seriously, no screws visible anywhere on this whole piece, just the shelf pins for the mechanical fastening. Then we're going to go ahead and take off this painter's tape. Now we can give this piece a quick vacuum to get all the sawdust out, as well as wipe it down with a lint-free rag. And now it's going to be time to use our finish, Rubio Monocoat. We're going to clean it with the Monocoat cleaner, then mix 3 parts oil to 1 part hardener. This speeds up the drying time significantly. Trust me, you want to use the hardener, otherwise it's going to take almost a month to dry. And here it is, the final reveal. When I tell you guys I'm in love with this piece, I mean it. It took me almost 10 months from start to finish. And even more, I designed this table 3 years ago. So it's been a dream in the making. It's been waiting for me to build it, and I'm absolutely, utterly in love. Thank you guys so much for sticking with me through this video. Go ahead and leave a comment saying entryway table so I know you've made it to the end. And a huge, huge shout out to my amazing fiance for her endless patience and for helping me with this build. If you guys enjoyed this journey, please give it a like and don't forget to subscribe. As always, I'm Neil, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.